The bright morning sun streamed through the tall school doors as Michael stepped inside. A brand-new backpack, still stiff from the store, rested on his shoulders. This was Northwood High, his new school, and a flutter of feelings danced in his stomach. He was excited to meet new friends and learn new things, but a little bit nervous too. Everything looked so big and unfamiliar. He clutched the strap of his backpack a bit tighter, his eyes wide as he took in the busy hallway. Students laughed and talked, their voices echoing off the lockers. Michael took a deep breath, trying to push away the jitters. He reminded himself that this was a fresh start, a chance to show everyone who he was. He squared his shoulders and began to walk, looking for his locker number. As Michael walked, his eyes scanning the lockers for number 214, a large shadow fell over him. He looked up, his gaze meeting a pair of narrowed eyes. Standing directly in his path was a student much bigger than Michael, with broad shoulders and a scowl on his face. This was Mark, known for his tough looks and even tougher attitude. Mark wore a dark hoodie, and his hands were shoved deep into his pockets, making him seem even more intimidating. He didn't move, just stood there, blocking the hallway completely. Michael tried to step around him, but Mark shifted, still keeping Michael from moving forward. The other students seemed to give Mark a wide berth, quickly moving out of his way as they hurried to their classes. A knot tightened in Michael's stomach. This wasn't the welcoming he had hoped for. Mark's eyes, usually just hard, now twisted into a sneer that made Michael feel small. The hallway, already loud, seemed to quiet down around them, though it was probably just in Michael's head. Mark leaned in a little, his voice a low growl that only Michael could hear clearly over the distant chatter. "What are you doing here?" Mark spat, his words sharp like tiny stones. "You don't belong here." The words hit Michael like a cold splash of water. It wasn't just the words. It was the mean look on Mark's face, the way his lips curled up at the corners. Michael felt a sudden chill, and his heart gave a little thump against his ribs. He looked around, hoping someone else had heard, but everyone else seemed to be looking away, busy with their own things. It was just him and Mark, standing there in the middle of the busy hallway. Michael's heart gave a little squeeze at Mark's harsh words. A hot wave of hurt washed over him, followed by a flicker of anger. "Don't belong here," he thought. Asterisk, "I have every right to be here." Asterisk, but he knew getting angry wouldn't help. His mom had always taught him to be respectful, even when others weren't. He took another deep breath, pushing down the upset feelings. He looked Mark right in the eye, trying to keep his voice steady and calm. "I'm Michael," he said, holding out a hand just a tiny bit, as if to offer a handshake. "I'm new here. My family just moved to town." He tried to sound polite, like nothing Mark said had bothered him, even though it had. He just wanted to get past Mark and find his locker. He tried to offer a small, friendly smile, hoping it would make the situation better. Just as Michael offered his hand, Mark's sneer deepened, and he ignored the polite gesture. Michael felt his calm start to waver. He wondered if this was how his first day would truly be. But then, a new figure entered the edge of their small, tense bubble. Mrs. Davis, the school principal, a woman with kind eyes but a firm posture, was making her way down the hallway. She usually walked with a quick, purposeful stride, her gaze sweeping over the students, making sure everyone was where they should be. As she got closer, her eyes landed on Mark, standing too close to Michael, who looked a bit uncomfortable. Her steps slowed, and a small frown creased her brow. She hadn't heard the words, but the sight of Mark blocking a new student was enough to catch her attention. She changed her path, heading straight for the two boys. Mrs. Davis's stride became quicker, her usual friendly smile gone. A look of quiet concern, mixed with a hint of sternness, settled on her face. Her eyes were fixed on Mark and Michael as she closed the distance between them. The noise of the busy hallway seemed to dim even more for Michael as he watched the principal approach. He felt a small spark of hope. Mark, however, hadn't noticed her yet, still focused on Michael with his unfriendly gaze. It was only when Mrs. Davis was just a few steps away, her shoes making soft thuds on the polished floor, that Mark finally looked up. His tough expression quickly changed to one of surprise, then a flicker of worry as he saw the principal's serious face. The air around them suddenly felt thick with unspoken rules and expectations. Mrs. Davis stopped right in front of Mark, her eyes steady and firm. "Mark," she said, her voice clear but not loud, cutting through the hallway noise. What exactly do you think you're doing? Mark mumbled something, looking down at his shoes, his tough act completely gone. He shuffled his feet, clearly uncomfortable under her gaze. Mrs. Davis didn't let up. This is Northwood High, she continued, her voice gaining a little more weight. And at Northwood, we treat everyone with respect. We don't block hallways, and we certainly don't make new students feel unwelcome. Do you remember the school rules, Mark? Especially the ones about kindness and inclusion? Mark just nodded, his face turning a shade of red. Michael watched, a sense of relief washing over him. It was good to know that someone important cared. Mark's cheeks burned redder as Mrs. Davis spoke. He wished the floor would swallow him whole. He had been so caught up in trying to look tough in front of Michael that he hadn't even seen Mrs. Davis coming. The idea of the principal seeing him act like a bully made his stomach churn. All the other students who had been hurrying past now seemed to be glancing over, their eyes curious. He imagined them whispering about him, about how he got caught. His usual swagger had completely vanished, replaced by a deep sense of shame. He was known as a tough guy, not someone who got lectured by the principal in the middle of the hallway like a little kid. This was way worse than any detention. He just wanted to disappear. Mrs. Davis looked at Mark, her expression still serious. Now, Mark, I think you owe Michael an apology, she stated, her voice leaving no room for argument. Mark's head snapped up, his eyes wide with surprise. An apology? In front of everyone? He swallowed hard. And let this be a clear warning, Mrs. Davis continued, her gaze firm. This kind of behavior is not tolerated at Northwood High. Any more incidents, and we will have to take further action. Do you understand? Mark nodded quickly, his face still hot. He understood perfectly. The principal's words hung in the air, a heavy reminder of what he had done and the trouble he would be in if he did it again. He glanced at Michael, who was watching him with a quiet expression. The thought of apologizing was hard, but he knew he had no choice. With a deep sigh, Mark shifted his weight and looked at Michael. His gaze was no longer mean, but instead filled with a mix of embarrassment and awkwardness. He cleared his throat, trying to find the words. Look, I'm sorry, he mumbled, his voice barely above a whisper. He didn't look Michael in the eye, instead focusing on a spot just over his shoulder. For what I said, and for blocking you. He kicked at an imaginary pebble on the floor, feeling incredibly foolish. The tough guy act he usually put on had completely fallen apart, leaving him feeling exposed and small. It was the hardest thing he had done all morning, perhaps all year. He just wanted to get away from the principal's watchful eyes and the curious glances of the other students. After Mark's mumbled apology, Mrs. Davis turned her attention fully to Michael, her serious face softening into a warm smile. Michael, she said kindly, welcome to Northwood High. I'm so glad you're here. She paused, then looked around the bustling hallway. Her eyes landed on a girl with bright, friendly eyes who was walking by. Sarah, Mrs. Davis called out. The girl stopped and walked over. Sarah, this is Michael, our new student. Would you mind showing him to his locker and helping him find his first class? Sarah, who had been watching the scene with interest, smiled brightly. Sure, Mrs. Davis. Hi, Michael, I'm Sarah. It's nice to meet you. Michael felt a wave of relief wash over him. A friendly face. This was much better than being stuck with Mark. The tension that had squeezed Michael's chest slowly eased away. Sarah's friendly smile and Mrs. Davis's kind words were like a warm blanket after a cold shock. He felt a huge weight lift from his shoulders. Hi, Sarah, Michael replied, a genuine smile finally reaching his eyes. It's really nice to meet you too. Knowing that the principal, a grown-up in charge, had stepped in to help him, made a big difference. It meant he wasn't alone. It meant that even though his first few minutes had been rough, there were good people here who would stand up for what was right. He no longer felt like a lost ship in a big ocean. He had found a friendly port. He felt ready to face the rest of his first day, knowing he had a friend and a grown-up who cared. As Michael and Sarah walked away, their laughter light and easy, Mark stood rooted to the spot. He watched them go, a strange, heavy feeling settling in his chest. It wasn't just embarrassment anymore. It was something deeper. He saw Michael's relieved smile, heard the friendly chatter, and a sharp pang of regret hit him. He had made Michael feel unwelcome, scared even, on his first day. He had been mean for no good reason. Now, Michael had a new friend, and Mark was left alone, with the principal's stern words still ringing in his ears. He wished he could rewind time, go back to when Michael first walked into the school, and act differently. He wished he had been the one to welcome Michael, instead of the one who tried to push him away. The thought made his stomach twist. The weight of his actions pressed down on Mark. He replayed the scene in his mind. Michael's polite introduction, his own sneering words, and the hurt in Michael's eyes. Mark had always tried to seem tough, but now he just felt like a jerk. His words, "You don't belong here," echoed in his head, and he finally understood how truly mean they were. It wasn't just about blocking a hallway. It was about making someone feel small and unwanted. The regret was sharp and immediate, a bitter taste in his mouth. He thought about how he would feel if someone said that to him on his first day somewhere new. It would be awful. He knew, deep down, that what he had done was wrong, and the realization hit him hard. The next morning, Mark walked through the school hallways with a different kind of feeling. The swagger was gone, replaced by a quiet thoughtfulness. He still felt bad about yesterday. As he turned a corner near the cafeteria, he saw Michael. Michael was laughing with Sarah, pointing to something on a bulletin board. Mark's heart gave a little thump. This was his chance. He could just walk past, pretend he didn't see him, but the regret from yesterday pushed him forward. He took a deep breath and walked towards them. When he was close enough, he cleared his throat. "Hey, Michael," he said, his voice a little rougher than he intended. He tried to think of something nice, something that wasn't awkward. That's a cool shirt." It wasn't much, but it was a start. Michael and Sarah stopped talking, both surprised to hear Mark's voice. Michael's eyes widened a little. He hadn't expected Mark to speak to him again, especially not after yesterday. He looked down at his shirt, a simple blue one, then back at Mark. There was no sneer on Mark's face this time, just a sort of awkwardness. Michael remembered his mom's words about giving people a second chance. He also remembered how bad it felt to be judged without being known. So, instead of being angry or ignoring him, Michael decided to be kind. "Thanks, Mark," he said, giving a small nod. "It's just an old one, but I like it." Sarah looked from Mark to Michael, a little surprised but also a bit impressed by Michael's calm reply. That small exchange, a simple compliment and a kind acceptance, marked a turning point for Mark. He started to watch Michael more closely, seeing him laugh with Sarah, join in games at lunch, and even raise his hand in class. Mark realized Michael was just another student, not a threat or an outsider. The shame of being caught by Mrs. Davis, and the deep regret he felt, slowly chipped away at his old ways of thinking. He began to understand that judging people before getting to know them was unfair. Over the next few weeks, Mark found himself thinking twice before saying something mean or making a quick judgment about someone new. He even started to say hi to other students he didn't know well. He was still Mark, but a little bit softer, a little bit kinder, and much more open. With Sarah's help, Michael quickly learned his way around Northwood High. He found his locker, located his classes, and even figured out the best spot for lunch. His quiet confidence and friendly nature helped him make friends easily. He joined the school's debate club, where his thoughtful ideas shone brightly. He also tried out for the basketball team, showing off his quick moves on the court. Soon, Michael wasn't just the new kid anymore. He was Michael, a valued member of the Northwood community. He enjoyed his classes, found joy in his new friendships, and felt completely at home. The initial scary moment with Mark faded into a distant memory, replaced by the warmth of acceptance and belonging. The day he blocked Michael and uttered those harsh words became a permanent mark in Mark's memory, not as a source of shame, but as a powerful lesson. He often thought back to the principal's firm voice and Michael's quiet dignity. It taught him that true strength wasn't about being mean or making others feel small, but about being kind and fair. He started to pay attention to how his words and actions affected others. Instead of automatically assuming the worst about new people, he gave them a chance. This change wasn't sudden or easy, but it was real. The incident with Michael became his personal reminder to always choose kindness, to treat everyone with respect, and to remember that everyone deserves to feel like they belong. In the end, both Michael and Mark walked away from that first day with important lessons. Michael learned that even when faced with unkindness, standing tall and being polite can make a difference, and that there are always good people who will support you. He learned the value of a strong community and the joy of finding his own place within it. Mark, on the other hand, learned a tougher, but perhaps even more important, lesson. He discovered that judging others unfairly only leads to regret, and that true belonging comes from treating everyone with kindness and respect. The school hallways, once a place of fear for Michael and a stage for Mark, became a reminder that friendship can grow in unexpected ways, and that everyone, no matter their background, deserves a warm welcome.